Okay, so how did our boy Link go from cooking mushroom skewers and minding his own business to turning into a wolf in the middle of the day? Ooh, that looks painful. But trust me, that's just one of the many weird things that happen in this world. Yeah, today we're breaking down the entire story of The Legend of Zelda. So grab your bomb bag and your hookshot, because we're about to jump through multiple timelines, ancient curses, and a lot of time travel. Let's go. So before the Zelda timeline became a 3-branch chronological headache full of time travel, ancient curses, and a lot of reincarnations, it all started with something very simple. A kid, a sword, a princess, and a pig-faced monster that just refuses to die. Released in 1986 for the NES, The Legend of Zelda was the game that introduced players to the Kingdom of Hyrule, a fantasy land that would go on to become one of the most iconic settings in gaming history. The game introduced the 3 characters who would basically spend the next 40 years stuck in an endless cycle of conflict: Link, Princess Zelda, and the villainous warlord Ganondorf, or as we'll later learn, Ganon, the Gerudo King with a serious obsession for magical triangles. Speaking of, this game also introduces the Triforce, a mysterious relic left behind by the 3 gods that can grant incredible power to who possesses it. The Triforce is made of 3 pieces: power, wisdom, and courage. As you might expect, everybody wants it. Unfortunately for Hyrule, the first person to get his hands on it is Ganon. At the start of the game, Ganon launches an attack on Hyrule and steals the Triforce of power, instantly becoming strong enough to threaten the entire kingdom. Realizing things are about to go very badly, Princess Zelda comes up with a clever plan. Before Ganon can capture her and take the rest of the Triforce, she breaks the Triforce of Wisdom into 8 separate pieces and hides them across Hyrule. You know, to make things inconvenient for him and for us. Zelda is eventually captured, because this is still a Zelda game, but her royal caretaker Impa manages to escape and goes searching for somebody who can help save the kingdom. Enter Link. At this point in the series, Link isn't yet the legendary hero of time or some chosen warrior of prophecy, just a young adventurer who happens to cross paths with Impa while she's fleeing from Ganon's forces. Seeing potential in the kid and probably realizing he's the only person around willing to help, Impa sends Link on a mission to recover the 8 scattered pieces of the Triforce of Wisdom. And so begins Link's very first adventure. Over the course of the game, Link travels across Hyrule exploring forests, mountains, lakes, and dungeons while fighting monsters, collecting new weapons, and gradually piecing together the shattered Triforce. Eventually, after recovering all 8 fragments, Link assembles the Triforce of Wisdom, marches straight into Death Mountain, and confronts Ganon in his lair. After a short but intense battle, Link defeats Ganon, freeing Hyrule from his rule. He rescues Princess Zelda, and with that, the kingdom is saved. At least for now, because defeating Ganon once doesn't exactly solve Hyrule's problems forever. Released just 1 year later for the NES in 1987, Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link introduces a new gameplay style. Instead of the top-down exploration of the first game, this one had side-scrolling combat, leveling systems, and a much heavier focus on gameplay. The story picks up a few years after Link defeated Ganon in the first game. Hyrule's still recovering from the chaos left behind by this, but unfortunately, Ganon's followers haven't exactly moved on. In fact, they're secretly trying to resurrect him. According to legend, if they defeat Link and use his blood in a ritual, they can bring Ganon back to life, which says a lot about their devotion to their boss. So yeah, Link has officially become the most wanted person in Hyrule. Around this time, Link notices a mysterious royal crest appear on the back of his hand. The questions in his mind lead him back to Impa, the same royal caretaker who sent him on his quest in the first game. Impa reveals a long-hidden secret about the Kingdom of Hyrule. Long before the events of the first game, the royal family possessed the complete Triforce, but one cautious king worried that such power might eventually fall into the wrong hands. So he secretly hid the final piece, the Triforce of Courage, somewhere deep within the kingdom, and only his daughter knows its location. The daughter was a princess named Zelda, but not the same Zelda from the first game. I know, we're only 2 games in and the series is already pretty confusing, but just bear with me, okay? This Zelda lived generations earlier and is now known as Zelda the First. When the king died, her brother, the prince, tried to force her to reveal the location of the Triforce of Courage. When she refused, a mysterious wizard cast a spell that placed her into an eternal sleep. Realizing he had just accidentally cursed his own sister for eternity, the prince was overwhelmed with guilt. Well, guess he's not all evil. To honor her memory, he decreed that every princess born into the royal family from that day forward would be named Zelda, which is why the princess in the first game is named Zelda, and the next one, and the next one. And basically every princess after that shares the same name. Talk about family commitment. My family can't even commit to a time where we can all watch Survivor together. Now, coming back to the present, Link's mission is to locate the hidden Triforce of Courage, awaken the sleeping princess, and stop Ganon's men before their resurrection ritual begins. To do this, Link travels across Hyrule once again, exploring towns, temples, and dangerous palaces, while placing magical crystals that slowly unlock the path to the final dungeon. Eventually, Link reaches the Great Palace, where he faces his final challenge, Shadow Link, a dark reflection of himself. Because if you think about about it, the final test of courage is, well, fighting your own inner demons. So, after defeating his shadowy doppelganger, Link claims the Triforce of Courage, finally reuniting the full Triforce. He uses its power to awaken the long-sleeping Princess Zelda the First and brings her centuries-long nap to an end. The princess thanks Link for ending her curse and restoring peace to the kingdom of Hyrule once again. Now, after 2 consecutive games of rescuing princesses, collecting magical triangles, and accidentally uncovering centuries-old family drama, Nintendo decided that it was time to expand the story of Hyrule. In 1991, they released The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past for Super Nintendo. It was kind of a big deal. In fact, many fans still consider it one of the greatest Zelda games ever made. Story-wise, this is where the lore really starts to take shape. As the name suggests, we're diving into the past for this one. As you already know, the Triforce is the most powerful relic in the world of Hyrule, but what the earlier games never really explained is where it was actually hidden before all these adventures began. According to ancient legend, the Triforce was sealed away in a holy dimension known as the Sacred Realm, and was meant to remain hidden there forever, protected by powerful magic so that no one with evil intentions could ever reach it. Which obviously worked for a while, but eventually Ganondorf discovered the entrance to the realm and claimed the Triforce. A quick introduction to this guy. Basically, Ganondorf was the king of the Gerudo, a desert tribe known for producing powerful warriors. But clearly, that wasn't enough for him and he wanted more power. So, when he touched the Triforce, he transformed into Ganon, which is a bigger and uglier version of him. You see, the Triforce has a strange property. When somebody touches it, the realm around it reflects the nature of that person's heart. If someone pure finds it, the land becomes peaceful and prosperous. But if someone filled with darkness claims it, well, the sacred realm turns into something else entirely. Ganondorf's greed and disgusting personality twisted the sacred realm into a corrupted dimension filled with monsters and darkness. So what was once a holy land quickly became an upside-down version of Hyrule, known as the Dark World. Naturally, it's a pretty big problem for the kingdom, so the royal family of Hyrule gathered the 7 sages, powerful guardians sworn to protect the realm. Together, they fought back against Ganon's growing power and managed to seal the entrance to the Dark World, trapping him inside. This ancient battle was later remembered as the Imprisoning War, and for a while, the plan actually worked. The Dark World remained sealed, Ganon was trapped, and peace slowly returned to Hyrule. One day, a mysterious wizard named Ganon suddenly appears in Hyrule. Around the same time, the kingdom started suffering from strange disasters like plague and drought. The wizard claims that he can stop these disasters, and surprisingly, he actually does. The problems disappear, the people are impressed, and before long, the wizard earns the trust of the king himself, who appoints him as his chief advisor, which in hindsight was a terrible idea, because soon after this wizard gains power, the king disappears and the soldiers fall under his control. So he's basically calling the shots in Hyrule. At the same time, young maidens across Hyrule start mysteriously vanishing. These aren't some random kidnappings. Each of the missing girls is actually a descendant of the 7 sages who sealed Ganon away centuries ago, which means whoever is kidnapping them is clearly trying to break the seal that keeps the Dark World closed. Meanwhile, one night, Link suddenly hears a voice calling out to him in his sleep. It's Princess Zelda, speaking to him through telepathy from the dungeon beneath Hyrule Castle. She tells him that she's been captured by the wizard and is asking for help. Link wakes up and notices his uncle leaving the house at the same time with a sword in his hand. The old man tells Link to stay home, making it guaranteed that Link is gonna follow him. When he arrives at Hyrule Castle, he finds his uncle badly injured after trying to rescue Zelda himself. With the last of his strength, he gives Link his sword and his shield and asks him to save the princess. So Link sneaks through the castle dungeon, fights his way past guards and monsters, and finally reaches Zelda's prison cell. After freeing her, the two escape through a hidden tunnel that leads to a safe place outside the castle, known as the Sanctuary. For now, Zelda is safe, but she warns Link that Ganon is trying to break the seal to the Dark World. If he succeeds, Ganon will be able to escape. And if Link wants to stop that from happening, he's going to need a very special weapon, the legendary Master Sword. According to the ancient legends, this blade is the only weapon powerful enough to defeat somebody like the wizard and push back the dark magic surrounding Hyrule. But there's one small problem. The Master Sword can't be picked by just anybody. To prove that he's worthy of wielding it, Link must first collect 3 sacred pendants hidden inside ancient temples across the kingdom. So once again, our boy Link sets off on another adventure across Hyrule, exploring forests, deserts, mountains, and dungeons filled with monsters and traps. First, he journeys to the Eastern Palace, where he defeats a group of giant living statues and recovers the Pendant of Courage. Next, he travels to the Desert Palace, battles a trio of massive sand monsters, and claims the Pendant of Power. Finally, after climbing the dangerous heights of Death Mountain, Link defeats a giant worm-like creature inside the Tower of Hera and secures the last relic, the Pendant of Wisdom. With all 3 pendants in hand, the path to the Master Sword finally opens, and Link finds the legendary blade resting in its pedestal. As the 3 pendants begin to glow, Link reaches forward and pulls the sword free. Just like that, the hero of Hyrule now holds the strongest weapon in Hyrule, destined to stand against the darkness threatening the kingdom. But unfortunately, he's about 5 minutes too late, because while Link was busy proving himself worthy, Ganon was busy finishing his plan. Soldiers attack the Sanctuary, capture Princess Zelda once again, and drag her back to Hyrule Castle. So now, armed with the Master Sword, Link storms the castle tower to confront the Dark Wizard himself. After a tense battle, Link manages to defeat the wizard by reflecting his own magic back at him using the Master Sword. But just before he's defeated, Ganon reveals that Zelda has already been sent to the Dark World, and the seal holding Ganon has finally been broken. Then with his last bit of magic, the wizard pulls Link into the Dark World as well. Link finds himself standing on top of a giant pyramid in the Dark World. Naturally, his first priority is rescuing the remaining maidens that were sent here by Ganon. The only way to do this is the classic Zelda way. Explore a bunch of dangerous dungeons and defeat whatever horrifying monster is living inside of them. So, he gets to work. Across the Dark World, he travels through creepy forests, frozen palaces, haunted villages, and giant towers, battling everything from giant eyeballs to armored beasts that clearly skipped leg day but absolutely nailed upper body strength. Good job, bro. One by one, Link defeats them and frees the imprisoned maidens. Each time he rescues one, he learns more about what's going on and helps weaken Ganon's control over the Dark World. Eventually, after rescuing all 7 maidens, they combine their powers and reveal the final destination, Ganon's Tower. Inside the tower, Link once again confronts Ganon, who apparently didn't learn his lesson the first time. After another round of magical ping pong, Ganon is finally defeated. But right before disappearing, he reveals that he was never the main villain. He was simply a puppet controlled by Ganon the entire time. Now, with his disguise destroyed, Ganon retreats to the Pyramid of Power, forcing Link to follow him for the final showdown. Come on, give the boy a break. After another battle, Link defeats Ganon using the legendary silver arrows, ending the Demon King's reign once again. Now, with Ganon gone, Link approaches the Triforce itself. The sacred relic grants him a wish, and instead of asking for power or riches, Link simply wishes for the damage caused by Ganon to be undone. Just like that, the Dark World begins to fade. Peace returns to Hyrule, and the kingdom is saved once again by the one and only Link. With his quest complete, Link returns the Master Sword to its pedestal in the Lost Woods, where it rests waiting for the next hero who might need it. Now, before we move on to the next big chapter in the Zelda timeline, we quickly talk about two very questionable entries in the series. In 1993, Link, The Faces of Evil, and Zelda, The Wand of Gamelon, were released for the Philips CDI console. These games are technically part of the Zelda history, but they weren't actually developed by Nintendo themselves. Instead, they were created by Philips after Nintendo made a licensing deal with the company. The results were not that great. Both games tell small side adventures that take place outside the kingdom of Hyrule. In Faces of Evil, Link travels across different lands trying to stop Ganon's minions from causing chaos and taking every opportunity to flirt with Princess Zelda.
How about a kiss for luck?
You've got to be kidding.
Meanwhile, in Wand of Gamelon, Princess Zelda herself goes on a quest to rescue both the king and Link after they mysteriously disappear. So for once, she's not the damsel in distress, which was pretty cool. Fortunately, the games were never really very good because of their awkward gameplay, bizarre animation, and some very questionable voice acting that the internet just still loves to make fun of today.
Oh boy, I'm so hungry I could eat an Octorok.
Story-wise, these games don't really affect the main timeline. They're mostly just fun little side adventures that Nintendo never officially treated as part of the core series anyway. So for our timeline, we'll simply acknowledge they exist, close the door, lock the door, put a chair in front of the door, and move on. After the huge success of A Link to the Past, Link's next adventure takes a much smaller and honestly much stranger turn. Released in 1993 for the Game Boy, Link's Awakening begins with Link traveling across the sea after his previous quest. Unfortunately for him, his trip doesn't really go according to plan. A massive storm hits and a ship gets wrecked, leaving Link unconscious on the shore of a mysterious island called Koholint Island. Thanks to his good luck and perhaps good looks, he's rescued by a girl named Marin, finds him lying on the beach and brings him back to her village. But as Link starts exploring the island, something feels very off about it. For starters, there's a giant egg sitting on top of the island's mountain, and according to the locals, the only way for Link to leave the island is to wake the creature sleeping inside of it, a mysterious being known as the Windfish. So naturally, Link does what Link always does. He sets off on another adventure. Across the island, he explores dungeons, fights monsters, and collects 8 magical instruments that are said to awaken the Windfish. Pretty standard Zelda stuff. Until the story reveals the plot twist that none of us saw coming. Some mysterious creatures called the Nightmares warn him that if the Windfish wakes up, the entire island, along with the people, will disappear. Basically, Koholint Island is actually part of the Windfish's dream. The towns, the monsters, even the people, they all exist only because the Windfish is currently asleep. So waking it up will erase the entire island from existence, but if he doesn't wake it, he's stuck there forever. It's a pretty tough choice to make. In the end, Link completes the quest and awakens the Windfish. The dream fades, the island starts to vanish, and you can't blame him. I mean, sure, technically erased an entire dream world of people, ended their lives, but you know, hey, he wanted to go home, okay? He was hungry. At last, he wakes up floating in the ocean, clinging to a piece of driftwood as the Windfish flies overhead, meaning the entire adventure was just a very long, very strange dream. Next up, we have one of the most important and easily one of the most beloved games in the entire Zelda series. Released in 1998 for the Nintendo 64, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time didn't just continue the story of Hyrule, it completely changed how players experienced it. For the first time ever, you could explore the kingdom in full 3D. ride across open fields on horseback, and hear that unforgettable ocarina melody echo throughout the game. It also introduced some of the most iconic characters, give us a deeper look into the origins of our leads. Our story begins in Kokiri Forest, a peaceful woodland village where a group of children known as the Kokiri live under the protection of a giant guardian tree called the Great Deku Tree. Now, the Kokiris have a pretty simple rule in their village. Every child has a fairy companion. Well, every child except for Link. Yeah, this is where our hero originally comes from. Link is a Kokiri, and for some reason, he's the only kid in the entire forest who doesn't get a fairy. So while the other kids run around with their glowing Tinkerbells, Link grows up without one. Makes him something of an outsider in the village. But one day, that finally changes. A very talkative fairy named Navi suddenly appears, waking from his peaceful little nap, and tells him that the Great Deku Tree wants to see him immediately. Now, if the giant talking tree that literally protects your entire forest calls for you, that's usually not a casual meeting. When Link arrives, the Deku Tree explains that a dark curse has been placed upon him, and he doesn't have much time left. The source of that evil is a mysterious man from the desert called Ganondorf. Yeah, it's him again. The Deku Tree asks Link to enter inside of him, which sounds weird out of context, but just, well, bear with me, it's fine. And he must destroy the evil that's spreading within him. So Link fights his way through monsters and traps inside the giant tree, and eventually defeats the giant spider causing the curse. Unfortunately, it's already too late. The damage has been done, and the Great Deku Tree is dying. Before taking his final breath, he reveals that Ganondorf is searching for the Triforce, the sacred relic that can grant unimaginable power to whoever possesses it. And if Ganondorf gets his hands on it, the entire kingdom of Hyrule could fall into darkness. So with his final request, the Deku Tree sends Link beyond the forest to warn the royal family of Hyrule and stop Ganondorf before it's too late. Just like that, Link's carefree life in the forest is officially over. Eventually, he makes his way to the castle and meets Princess Zelda. Surprisingly, she already knows about Ganondorf's plans. Zelda explains that Ganondorf, the king of the Gerudo, has been pretending to swear loyalty to the king of Hyrule, but she's convinced that he's secretly trying to steal the Triforce and take control of the kingdom. To stop him, Zelda asks Link to help her open the Sacred Realm, the hidden place where the Triforce is kept. But the entrance can only be unlocked using 3 magical artifacts known as the Spiritual Stones. So, once again, Link gets sent on a quest. Seriously, it's all that anybody ever asks him to do. He travels across Hyrule collecting the stones from 3 different races. First from the Gorons, a tribe of rock-eating mountain warriors living on Death Mountain, then from the Zoras, an aquatic race that rules over the rivers and lakes. And finally, he returns to his own forest to obtain the stone connected to the Kokiri. After gathering all 3 spiritual stones, Link rushes back to Hyrule Castle to meet Zelda again. But by the time he arrives, Ganondorf has already launched his attack on the kingdom. The castle's under siege, Zelda is forced to flee, and the ugly bastard has gained access to the entrance of the Sacred Realm. But before escaping, Zelda manages to toss Link one last gift, the Ocarina of Time, the sacred instrument needed to open the path to the Sacred Realm. With the Ocarina and the 3 spiritual stones now in his possession, Link heads straight to the Temple of Time, the ancient building that guards the entrance to the Sacred Realm, where the Triforce is hidden. Inside the temple stands a legendary weapon, the Master Sword. Although we used the sword in the previous game, here it's introduced as a new weapon to the story that's said to be powerful enough to stand against all evil. So, given the situation, Link pulls it out, which turns out to be a great and terrible idea, because the moment Link removes the sword, the door to the Sacred Realm opens, but it also allows Ganondorf to walk right in and claim the Triforce. Wait, what? We went through all the trouble with the stone just to let the villain walk in so easily? Why did we do that? Now you might be thinking, okay, fine, but Link is the great sword and all now, so you can just finish him off right there. Yeah, well, about that, you see, the Sacred Realm has a rule. If the hero who pulls the Master Sword is too young to become the hero of time, he gets placed into a magical sleep until he's ready, which means instead of fighting Ganondorf, Link gets knocked out and put to sleep. Honestly though, the kid could use some rest right now, but when he finally wakes up, it's been 7 frickin' years. And the first person he meets is Rauru, the Sage of Light, who explains that while Link was asleep, Ganondorf not only claimed the Triforce of Power, but he also took over Hyrule. So now, back to the present, the hero of time resumes his journey across a now nightmarish Hyrule. And to stop Ganondorf, Link must awaken the 7 sages, whose power can seal his bad boy away once and for all. This challenge takes him on yet another long adventure, but long story short, each sage he rescues turns out to be a familiar face. Saria, Link's childhood friend from the forest, becomes the Sage of Forest. Darunia, the rock-eating leader of the Gorons, becomes the Sage of Fire. Princess Ruto of the Zoras awakens as the Sage of Water. Impa, Zelda's loyal caretaker, becomes the Sage of Shadow. And Naboru of the Gerudo becomes the Sage of Spirit. Throughout this journey, Link is also being guided by a mysterious masked warrior named Sheik, who appears at key moments, teaching Link special songs that help him travel through time and move across Hyrule. Eventually, the truth about Sheik's identity comes out, and she's actually Princess Zelda in disguise. While Link was asleep for 7 years, Zelda went into hiding to avoid avoid Ganondorf. Using magic, she disguised herself as Sheik and secretly helped guide Link on his journey to awaken the sages. Smart girl. But unfortunately, the reveal happens at the worst possible time, because the second Ganondorf learns of Zelda's location, he captures her and drags her back to his castle. Which means there's only one thing left for Link to do: storm Ganon's castle and end this drama once and for all. So Link fights his way through the castle, battling monsters, solving puzzles, and climbing higher and higher until he finally reaches the top, where Ganondorf has been waiting the whole time. The two face off in a final battle, and after an intense fight, Link manages to defeat him. But of course, Ganondorf isn't the type of villain who just accepts defeat and politely disappears. As the castle begins collapsing around them, Ganondorf uses the last of his power to transform into his ugly monstrous form, which we're already aware of. But with the help of Princess Zelda, Link manages to weaken Ganon long enough to land the final blow. And once the monster falls, Princess Zelda comes forward as the seventh and final sage, which I did not see coming, by the way. The sages then combine their power to seal him away inside the sacred realm. Ganondorf is finally defeated, and peace returns to Hyrule. For the 8th time? I've kinda lost count, to be honest. As a token of appreciation, after everything that Link has been through, Zelda decides to give him something: his lost childhood. Because while Link saved the entire kingdom, he also lost 7 years of his life. The years he spent asleep waiting to become the hero of time were years that he never got to live. So using the Ocarina of Time, she sends Link back to the moment before he first pulled the Master Sword, giving him the chance to relive the childhood that he missed. Which sounds like a nice wholesome ending, except it accidentally creates one of the biggest twists in the entire Zelda series, because now there are two different timelines. One where the adult Link defeated Ganondorf, leaving behind a world where the hero eventually disappears, and another where Link returns to the past armed with the knowledge of everything that's about to happen. So that's basically how the Zelda timeline is divided into multiple branches, but we're gonna get to those details later. The next game we have is The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. After the massive success of Ocarina of Time, Nintendo released its direct sequel just 2 years later, and it came out in 2000 for the Nintendo 64. But instead of another grand adventure across Hyrule with epic battles and legendary swords, this game went in a very different direction than we're expecting. Instead of saving a kingdom from an evil warlord, Link now finds himself stuck in a world that is quite literally counting down to its own destruction. The game starts shortly after Zelda sends Link back in time to live his childhood again. He leaves Hyrule and heads out on a personal journey to search for his missing fairy friend, Navi. While traveling through the woods, Link is ambushed by a strange little creature known as the Skull Kid, who's wearing a mysterious and very creepy artifact called Majora's Mask, which is known to hold dark magical power. The next thing we know is he steals Link's horse, Epona, and the Ocarina of Time, and curses Link by turning him into a Deku Scrub, a tiny wooden plant creature. Not exactly the glow-up that we were hoping for. But anyway, after chasing the kid, Link eventually ends up in a strange parallel world called Termina, where he meets a mysterious traveling merchant known as the Happy Mask Salesman. The old fella informs Link that the Skull Kid has used Majora's Mask to pull the moon out of orbit, and in 3 days, it's going to crash into the world and destroy everything. And the moon has a giant terrifying face. Okay, that's terrible news, but at least it's not Ganon again, I guess. Now, with only 72 hours before the moon crashes into the world, Link must figure out how to stop the disaster. He follows the kid into the clock town, where he manages to get the Ocarina of Time back, which means now he can rewind time back to the start of 3 days. And this kinda becomes the core mechanic of the game. Using the Ocarina, he plays the Song of Time, which sends him back to the first day, just before the moon crashes. And this kinda goes on for several days, as the players play over the same 3 days over and over again, just barely avoiding the crash, but each time, Link learns something new about how to actually stop the falling moon. To save Termina, Link travels across the 4 regions of the world, clearing temples and defeating the monsters that are keeping the giants imprisoned. First in the swamp, where he defeats Adolwa, then in the snowy mountains, where he battles Goat, next in the ocean, facing the massive sea monster Fjorg, and finally travels to the Twisted Stone Tower Temple, where he defeats Twinmold. Each victory frees one of the ancient giants, and they promise Link that when the time comes, they'll return to help stop the falling moon. Meanwhile, Link also learns the backstory of the Skull Kid. Turns out he isn't really evil, just a lonely trickster who was manipulated and corrupted by the dark power of Majora's Mask, which means the real villain here isn't the kid, it's the mask itself. As the final day arrives, the moon is now hanging directly above the town, getting closer and closer with every passing minute. But this is exactly the moment that Link has been preparing for. Just as the moon is about to crash into the world, the 4 ancient giants appear and physically hold the moon in place, stopping the apocalypse. At least for as long as Link finds a permanent solution to the problem. So Link uses the Ocarina to teleport onto the moon itself and confront the source of all the chaos, which technically makes him the first man to walk on the moon, not Neil Armstrong. NASA, you got some explaining to do. Inside the moon, Link finally faces Majora, the dark entity that's been manipulating the Skull Kid this entire time. After an intense battle, Link defeats the creature and destroys the evil power of Majora's Mask, finally breaking its curse. Now, with Majora defeated, the moon returns safely to the sky, and the world of Termina is saved. The Skull Kid is free from the evil manipulating him and reunites with his old friends. So, once again, our boy Link saves the day, and as humble as he is, he quietly leaves Termina, continuing his journey. Oh, and remember Navi, the fairy friend that Link originally set out to find at the beginning of the game? Yeah, still have no idea what happened to her. Series never really explains where she went, and she's never mentioned again in any of the later games either. So I guess let's just pretend that she found her own little fairy adventure somewhere out in the Lost Woods, where she's still yapping to this day. Next up is The Legend of Zelda Oracle of Seasons, released in 2001 for the Game Boy Color. This time, Link's adventure takes him to a faraway land called Holodrum. While traveling there, Link meets a mysterious dancer named Din, who later turns out to be the Oracle of Seasons, a guardian responsible for maintaining the balance of nature and the changing seasons, which sounds like a pretty cool job actually. Fortunately, this job comes with a lot of risk. A powerful general named Onyx suddenly appears and captures Din, throwing the entire land of Holodrum into chaos. With the Oracle gone, the seasons start going completely out of control. Winter, summer, spring, and fall are all shifting unpredictably across the land, so it's up to Link to fix it. And for that, he needs to gather the essences of nature, powerful relics hidden across dungeons throughout Holodrum. You know, the classic Zelda way. Along the way, he battles Onyx's forces, and each essence slowly restores balance to the crazy climate situation, weakening Onyx's control over the kingdom. In the end, Link defeats Onyx in his castle and rescues Din, saving the land of Holodrum. Story-wise, Oracle of Seasons is mostly a standalone adventure, but it does introduce a bigger threat working behind the scenes, which we will cover in the next game. Released alongside Oracle of Seasons in 2001 for the Game Boy Color, The Legend of Zelda Oracle of Ages follows a pretty similar format to the previous game, but instead of messing with the seasons, this time the story revolves around, time. Link arrives in a new land called Labrinia, where he meets a singer named Leru, who is actually the Oracle of Ages, responsible for keeping the flow of time balanced in the world. As you might expect, things go pretty sideways the moment that Link meets her. A creepy sorceress named Varen possesses Nehru and starts going back and forth through time, causing chaos across Labrinia. Cities start collapsing, history gets rewritten, and suddenly the entire kingdom is dealing with a full-blown time travel mess. Again, it's up to Link to fix things. Using a magical instrument called the Harp of Ages, Link travels between the past and the present, solving puzzles, exploring dungeons, and collecting the essences of time needed to restore order. Eventually, Link defeats Varen and frees Nehru, saving Labrinia and putting the timeline back where it belongs. Now if you're thinking, this sounds exactly like the last game, you're not wrong. The structure is almost the same. New land, kidnapped Oracle, Link runs around collecting magical essences to save the day, but the interesting part is how the two games connect. If you complete both Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages, their stories link together. They reveal that all these events were secretly part of a much bigger plan. The villains in both games are actually working for Twin Rova, a pair of dark witches trying to perform a ritual to resurrect the OG villain Ganon, because apparently his followers just refuse to let the guy stay dead. I mean, can't you just vote in a new leader? Next up is The Legend of Zelda Four Swords. Released in 2002 for the Game Boy Advance, this game is very different from what we've seen up until now, because Four Swords was designed mainly as a multiplayer game. In fact, the whole idea was that for up to 4 players to team up and control different versions of Link at the same time. Yeah, 4 Links running around at the same time. What could possibly go wrong? Story-wise though, things are pretty simple. The game introduced a new villain named Vati, a wind sorcerer who kidnaps Princess Zelda and begins causing trouble across Hyrule. To stop him, Link pulls a magical weapon known as the Four Sword, which has the unique ability to split Link into 4 separate copies of himself, hence the name Four Sword. So, Link and his 3 other copies travel through different regions, defeat monsters, and eventually confront Vati. In the end, they manage to defeat the sorcerer and seal him away inside the Four Sword once again. And while the game itself is pretty short and pretty simple, you need to hold on to this name, Vati, because it'll show up again in the upcoming games. Alright, next up, we have The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker. Released in 2002. It's 2002. Oh man, I'm so old. Released in 2002 for the GameCube, this game surprised a lot of players the moment they first saw it, because instead of the dark, realistic look that people were expecting after Ocarina of Time, Nintendo went in the exact opposite direction. Wind Waker introduced a bright cartoon-style world, with huge expressive eyes, exaggerated animations, and characters that looked like they had walked straight out of an animated film. Oh, and the Kingdom of Hyrule is not exactly how you remember it. Basically, after Princess Zelda sent Link back so he could relive his missed childhood, the timeline he left behind suddenly had no hero to protect it anymore. The hero of time was gone, and the land of Hyrule was still recovering from the damage Ganondorf had caused. At first, the people tried to rebuild, but Ganondorf eventually returned, breaking free from the seal that had been holding him. The kingdom once again fell into chaos, and this time, when the people prayed for the legendary hero to save them, no one came. With no hope left, the gods made a drastic decision and flooded the entire kingdom of Hyrule. A massive ocean swallowed the land, burying the old kingdom beneath the waves and trapping Ganondorf deep below the sea. The people who survived escaped to the highest mountain peaks, which eventually became the scattered islands of the Great Sea. Over generations, the old kingdoms faded into legend. What once was Hyrule became a world of islands surrounded by an endless ocean. And our story begins on one of these peaceful islands called Outset Island, where Link now lives with his grandmother and little sister, Errol. Now, there's a tradition on this island that whenever a boy reaches a certain age, he's given the same green tunic worn by the legendary hero of time who once saved Hyrule. It's basically their way of honoring their savior. And today, it's Link's birthday, which he doesn't seem too excited about. Anyway, Link puts on the iconic green outfit after a lot of convincing from Grandma. Everyone looks excited for his birthday, especially his sister, and things are looking pretty great for them. Until they don't. Out of nowhere, a massive bird known as the Helmaric King swoops down from the sky and starts attacking the island, kidnapping several girls, including Link's little sister. Determined to rescue her, Link teams up with a group of pirates led by a girl named Tetra, and together they set sail across the massive ocean known as the Great Sea. And just like that, Link's birthday turns into an ocean adventure. The pirates eventually track the giant bird to a place called Forsaken Fortress, where they believe Hyrule is being held. Link sneaks into the fortress to rescue her and immediately loses his sword, leading to one of the most stealth-focused dungeons in the whole franchise. Eventually, he spots his sister along with other kidnapped maidens. He goes to their rescue, but things don't go exactly according to plan. He's spotted and captured by the Helmaric King, and the giant bird literally throws him into the middle of the ocean. But thanks to some incredible luck, Link is rescued by somebody who will eventually become one of his most important companions in this game. A talking boat. Yep, I'm checking my notes, you heard that right. This mysterious dragon-faced talking boat introduces himself as the King of Red Lions, and he seems to know an awful lot about what's really happening in the world. He explains that the giant bird who kidnapped Link's sister is actually working for somebody very familiar. Yeah, it's Ganondorf. I mean, at this point, if he's not the actual villain, that would be concerning. Now, according to the boat, Ganondorf has been searching for girls with pointed ears because they may be descendants of the royal family of Hyrule, and Link's sister just happened to get caught in the middle of that search. Now, if Link wants any chance of stopping Ganondorf, he's going to have to prove himself yet again. The King of Red Lions tells Link about 3 sacred treasures hidden across the ocean known as the Pearls of the Goddesses. If Link can gather them, they will unlock the Tower of the Gods, an ancient trial meant to determine whether somebody is worthy of becoming the next hero. So once again, Link sets off on a journey across the Great Sea, sailing between islands, exploring temples, fighting monsters, and collecting the 3 pearls. After collecting the 3 sacred pearls, Link unlocks the Tower of the Gods, an ancient structure that rises straight out of the ocean. Inside, he must pass a series of trials designed to test whether or not he's worthy of becoming the hero who will stand against Ganondorf. After completing the challenge, the path finally opens to the legendary Master Sword. Link pulls the blade from its pedestal and officially becomes the hero destined to fight Ganondorf. Now, along the way, Link eventually manages to rescue his sister Hyrule with the help of Tetra and the pirates, which is why this entire adventure even started. But unfortunately, they can't end their journey yet because Ganondorf is still out there. Stopping him will require something even more important, the Triforce of Courage, which has been shattered into pieces and spread across the ocean. So Link sets out on another quest to track down each fragment and restore the Triforce. While all this is happening, some big secrets come out. The talking boat that's been guiding Link across the ocean this entire time reveals itself to be King Daphne's Nohanson Hyrule, the last king of the ancient kingdom. Yeah, the king of a great kingdom has been a boat. Zelda lore is wild, people. And Tetra is, well, she's actually Princess Zelda, the descendant of the ancient royal family of Hyrule. Surprise! Turns out the pirate life was basically a disguise passed down through generations to keep the royal bloodline hidden from Ganondorf. Tetra herself wasn't even aware she was royalty. Once her true identity is revealed, Tetra briefly takes on her rightful form as Princess Zelda. With the Triforce of Courage finally restored, Link heads for the final showdown at Ganondorf's Tower. Hidden deep within the ruins of the old kingdoms of Hyrule, inside the ruins of the old world, Ganondorf nearly claims the full power of the Triforce, but before he can make his wish, the King of Hyrule steps in and makes one himself. Instead of restoring the old kingdom, he wishes for Hyrule to completely disappear, because he realizes that the world has already moved on, and clinging to the past will only repeat the same cycle of destruction again and again. Just like that, the ancient kingdom of Hyrule begins to sink forever beneath the sea. With one final battle, Link defeats Ganondorf once again, turning him to stone and ending his reign of terror. The old world is gone. The kingdom of Hyrule is gone. And with nothing left tying them to the past, Link and Zelda set sail across the ocean, ready to build a completely new future, which might just be the smartest decision anybody in this game has made so far. I can't get over the fact that that boat was a man the whole time. Next up, we have The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords Adventures, released in 2004 for the GameCube. The name suggests the story picks up after the events of 4 Swords, bringing back the magical blade that can split our hero into multiple copies of himself. Story begins when Princess Zelda and Link visit the sanctuary that holds the 4 Sword, magical weapon that once sealed away the wind sorcerer Vati, we remember. Everything is good, it's a nice sunny day, until suddenly a mysterious dark figure appears. You might remember it from the second game, The Adventure of Link. This alter ego Link begins attacking the Shrine Maidens and kidnaps Princess Zelda. I'm not exactly sure why everyone is so obsessed with kidnapping the princess. Anyway, Link does the one thing the shrine was specifically built to prevent. He pulls the 4 Sword, which of course releases Vati again and splits Link into 4 identical copies of himself. Great start. Now with 4 Links working together, the heroes travel across different regions of Hyrule, rescuing the kidnapped maidens and trying to stop the chaos spreading across the kingdom that we caused. But as the adventure unfolds, it becomes clear that Vaati is not the mastermind, but rather, you know who. Using a magical artifact known as the Dark Mirror, he created Shadow Link to trick the hero into releasing Vaati and throwing the kingdom into chaos. Ganondorf then claims a powerful dark trident, transforming himself into the familiar Demon King Ganon once again. In the end, the four links manage to defeat both Vaati and Ganon, sealing Vaati back inside the Four Sword and restoring peace to Hyrule once again. Been wanting to say that for a while now. Next up, we have The Legend of Zelda The Minish Cap, released in 2004 for the Game Boy Advance. Timeline-wise, this game actually serves as a prequel to the Four Sword story, explaining where the villain Vaati actually came from and how the legendary Four Sword was created. The story begins during a festival in Hyrule celebrating the legend of a tiny race of creatures called the Minish, also known as the Picori, who once helped the kingdom by giving the hero a magical sword to defeat evil. During the celebration, a mysterious sorcerer named Vaati appears and shatters the sacred sword used to seal monsters away. Basically, Vaati used to be Minish himself, but eventually got obsessed with power and evil, transforming into the wind sorcerer that we see now. Not only crashes the party, but also turns Princess Zelda to stone and begins searching for a powerful magical force known as the Light Force, which is hidden somewhere in Hyrule. So, once again, to fix the broken sword and stop Vaati, Link sets off on a journey across the kingdom with the help of a very talkative magical cap named Eslo, who, fun fact, used to be Vaati's former mentor before the guy turned pure evil. Throughout the adventure, Link gains the ability to shrink down to the size of the Minish, allowing him to explore tiny hidden worlds inside everyday places and slowly repair the broken blade. By the end of the journey, the sword is reforged into the legendary Four Sword, and Link defeats Vaati, sealing him inside the weapon for the very first time, which, as we already know from the previous games, doesn't exactly keep him locked up forever, but at least that is how it was done. Next up, we have one of the most important games in the Zelda timeline, because it follows the young Link timeline after Ocarina of Time and brings the big old Ganondorf back in a very different way. Released in 2006 for the GameCube, The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess takes the story into a much deeper and darker corner of Hyrule. The darker aesthetic was a direct result of the outrage that Wind Waker caused. Fun fact, it also introduces one of the most beloved characters, Midna, who's a sarcastic little imp, and basically spends most of the game ordering Link around, while also occasionally saving his life. Our story begins in Ordon Village, quiet rural town far away from the politics of Hyrule Castle. Here, Link lives a normal life working as a ranch hand, helping the villagers herd goats and doing odd jobs around the village, which is not a bad career choice to be honest, given the life that he's used to. He spends most of his time helping the villagers and hanging out with his childhood friend, Ilia. Life is good, it's peaceful, exactly like what he should be doing instead of fighting monsters and saving the world. However, one day, strange shadow creatures suddenly appear near the village. They kidnap several of the local children and Link's friends, dragging them into a mysterious wall of darkness spreading across the land. Link immediately rushes after them, but before he can do anything, he's pulled into the darkness himself. When he wakes up, he's transformed into a wolf. Yeah, not a knight, not a swordsman, he's a wolf. And while he's trying to process this little development, he's approached by a strange imp-like creature from the Twilight Realm, a mysterious girl named Midna. From this point forward, things only get weirder. This strange dimension that Link's in is known as the Twilight Realm, and it's basically a dark, distorted version of Hyrule where everything's covered in shadow, and most humans have been turned into wandering spirits. Luckily for Link, Midna decides to help him escape. Okay, maybe help is a strong word. It's more like she rides on his back, roasts him every 5 minutes, and nudges him into the right direction, but, you know, something is better than nothing. Midna takes Link to meet someone who might know what the hell is actually going on. That somebody is actually Princess Zelda herself. She tells Link that a mysterious figure named Zant has invaded the kingdom using the power of the Twilight Realm, and his shadow forces have taken over Hyrule, covering the land in darkness and turning its people into spirits trapped between worlds. Now, Link and Midna must restore peace to Hyrule, and for that, they need to travel across the land and collect ancient relics known as the Fused Shadows. These are powerful artifacts that once belonged to the rulers of the Twilight Realm, and that might just be strong enough to defeat Zant, which means it's time for another classic Zelda adventure. Now, as long as Link remains inside the Twilight-covered areas, he stays stuck in his wolf form, but once he restores the light to a region by helping the local light spirit, the darkness lifts, and Link finally transforms back into his human form. So, throughout the adventure, Link ends up switching between the two depending on where he is. Human in the light, wolf in the twilight. Yeah, that kinda rhymed. Not long after that, Link is reunited with the kidnapped kids from the village. Turns out they were rescued by a man named Renato, the shaman of Kakariko Village, who found them wandering after the Shadow Beast left them behind. Renato takes them in and looks after them, giving them a safe place to recover while the rest of Hyrule is basically falling apart. So Link and Midna set out across Hyrule searching for the Fused Shadows, and to get them, Link has to explore a series of temples scattered across the kingdom. Again, pretty standard stuff. The first one takes him deep into the Forest Temple, where he ends up helping a bunch of monkeys rescue their friends from monsters. Yeah, monkeys. After fighting through the temple and defeating the giant plant monster inside, Link recovers the first piece of the Fused Shadow. Next up is Death Mountain, where the Gorons have been acting unusually aggressive toward the people of Kakariko Village. Turns out their leader was corrupted by dark power after touching another one of the artifacts. Link travels into the Goron mines, defeats the possessed Goron Patriarch, and retrieves the second piece. Finally, Link heads to Lake Hylia, where the entire Zora domain has mysteriously frozen over and the Zora Queen has been killed by Zant's forces. After helping restore the water flow and rescuing the Zora Prince, Link dives in the Lakebed Temple and defeats the massive creature lurking at the bottom of the lake. With that, the third and final Fused Shadow is recovered. But just when things start looking good, Zant suddenly appears. And let's just say, this guy is way stronger than we were expecting. Zant effortlessly defeats Link and Midna, curses Link again, and nearly kills Midna before escaping. The only reason they escape was because one of the light spirits teleports them away at the last second. At this point, Midna is in really bad shape. With no other options left, Link carries her back to Hyrule Castle to ask Princess Zelda for help. But unfortunately, the magic Zant used on Midna isn't something Zelda can simply cure. Instead, Zelda makes a very unexpected decision. She sacrifices her own power to save Midna. Yeah, Princess Zelda literally gave up her life force to keep Midna alive, which is honestly one of the most underrated heroic moments, period. Now with Midna recovering, Link is given a new lead. If he wants the power to fight back against the darkness spreading across Hyrule and break the wolf curse again, he must seek out the Master Sword. Link travels to a mysterious place known as the Sacred Grove, where the ancient blade has been resting for generations. After navigating the forest maze and solving the puzzles guarding the area, he finally reaches the sword itself, and when Link pulls the Master Sword from its pedestal, the sword instantly breaks the curse Zant placed on him. But more importantly, with the Master Sword, Link is now powerful enough to fight against the dark magic Zant is using. However, Midna now reveals that defeating Zant alone won't be enough. If they want to truly stop him and reclaim the Twilight Realm, they'll need to find an ancient gateway that connects the two worlds, the Mirror of Twilight. There's just one small problem. The mirror has been shattered into pieces, which means Link's next mission is to travel across Hyrule again, this time searching for the fragments needed to restore it. Ugh. According to legend, this ancient mirror was once used by the royal family to send dangerous criminals into the Twilight Realm, basically a magical prison portal. Link eventually tracks it down in the Arbiter's grounds, an old desert execution site built by the royal family of Hyrule. But when he finally reaches the mirror, a group of mysterious figures appear and reveal themselves as the Sages, ancient guardians who once tried to execute the one and only villain Ganondorf. Turns out that long ago, after the events of Ocarina of Time, the Sages attempted to execute Ganondorf for his crimes. But things didn't exactly go according to plan. The moment they tried to carry out the execution, the Triforce of Power activated and saved him. Ganondorf broke free, killed one of the Sages, and proved he was way too powerful to destroy. So instead, the Sages did the only thing they could. They banished him into the Twilight Realm using the Mirror of Twilight. And that's where everything went wrong, because inside that realm, Ganondorf eventually encountered Zant, granting him dark power and helping him overthrow the rightful leader of the Twilight Realm, which explains why Zant suddenly became powerful enough to invade Hyrule. The Sages also tell Link where exactly the scattered pieces of the mirror are located. One lies hidden in the snowy Snow Peak ruins, another deep within the Temple of Time, and the last one somewhere high above the clouds in the city in the sky. So once again, Link sets off across the kingdom to recover the missing pieces, and after battling through icy mountains, ancient ruins, and a floating city in the heavens, he finally restores the Mirror of Twilight. After the mirror is rebuilt, another big reveal tells us that Midna isn't just some sarcastic little imp who decided to tag along. She's actually the true ruler of the Twilight Realm, the Twilight Princess. Link and Midna step through the restored Mirror of Twilight and enter the Twilight Realm to confront Zant and reclaim Midna's throne. Inside his palace, Zant throws everything he has at them, forcing Link to fight through strange arenas that mirror some of the bosses he faced earlier in the game. But in the end, Link does defeat him, and as Zant collapses, he finally spills the beans that whoever gave him all these powers was none other than Ganondorf. Yeah, we know. Ganondorf used Zant to spread chaos across both the Twilight Realm and Hyrule while he prepared his own return. And by the time Link and Midna realize what's happening, it's already too late. Ganondorf has taken control of Hyrule Castle. So Link, Midna, and Zelda head straight for the castle to end this once and for all. The final battle plays out in several stages. First, Ganondorf possesses Princess Zelda, forcing Link to fight her until the evil spirit is driven out. Then Ganondorf transforms into a massive beast, and Link has to take him down with the help of Midna. After that, the fight moves outside the castle for a dramatic horseback battle, with Princess Zelda firing light arrows while Link chases Ganondorf across the battlefield. And finally, it all comes down to one last sword duel between Link and Ganondorf. In the end, Link strikes the final blow with the Master Sword, defeating Ganondorf and bringing peace back to Hyrule once again. After the battle, Midna returns to her true form as the Twilight Princess, but before leaving, she makes one final decision. She destroys the Mirror of Twilight, permanently separating the Twilight Realm from Hyrule, meaning Link and Midna have to say goodbye for good. And with that, the Twilight Realm fades away, and peace finally returns to Hyrule, at least until the next adventure. So next up is the Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass, released in 2007 for the Nintendo DS. Story-wise, this game is a direct sequel to the Wind Waker, picking up almost immediately after those events. At the end of Wind Waker, Link and Tetra Tetra set sail across the Great Sea searching for a new land where they can build a new kingdom. But during their journey, they come across a mysterious ghost ship drifting through a thick fog. Now, of course, because this is a Zelda game, somebody has to investigate the creepy ship. So Tetra boards it and gets kidnapped. Link jumps after her to help, but ends up falling into the ocean and washing ashore on a strange island, where he meets a fairy named Sela and an old sailor named Linebeck, who's basically a greedy treasure hunter that mostly cares about money, but reluctantly helps anyway. Together, they set off across a new ocean to track down the ghost ship and rescue Tetra. Along the way, Link discovers that the real villain behind everything is a monster called Bellum, a creature that feeds on life force and controls the ghost ship. To stop him, Link must collect special sea charts and use a magical artifact known as the Phantom Hourglass, which protects him from the curse inside the Temple of the Ocean King, the game's main dungeon that players revisit multiple times. After a long adventure across the seas, Link finally gets his hands on Bellum, defeats the creature, and rescues Tetra. And once the battle is over, the strange world they were in fades away, leaving Link and Tetra back on their ship, ready to continue their search for a new land, which leads us directly into the next game in the timeline, The Legend of Zelda Spirit Tracks. Released in 2009 for the Nintendo DS, this game takes place about 100 years or so after the events of Phantom Hourglass and the New Kingdom that Link and Tetra eventually founded. Over time, that new land grew into what is now called New Hyrule. Instead of sailing across oceans, people now travel across the land using a network of magical railways known as the Spirit Tracks. Yeah, it's trains. Trains in a Zelda game. Yeah, I know it sounds a bit weird, but it is what it is. In this story, Link is a young engineer in training who's about to receive his official conductor's certificate from Princess Zelda herself. But before the ceremony can even finish, the two discover that the spirit tracks that protect the kingdom are suddenly disappearing, and an evil chancellor named Cole is secretly working to revive an ancient demon king called Malatus. During the chaos, Zelda's spirit gets separated from her body, meaning for most of the game, she actually travels with Link as a ghost. And honestly, this might be the most active role Zelda's ever had in the series, because, you know, she usually gets kidnapped at the start of the game. So, it's a nice change of pace. Even better, she can even possess giant phantom knights to help Link solve puzzles and fight enemies. So together, Link and Ghost Zelda travel across New Hyrule by train, restoring the broken spirit tracks and gathering the power needed to stop Malatus from returning. In the end, they manage to defeat both Chancellor Cole and the Demon King, restoring peace to Hyrule. I mean, New Hyrule, once again. Or, well, is it the first time? Anyway, Link officially graduates from the Royal Engineer Academy, making this the first time in the series we actually see Link get a diploma, saving the world and graduating on the same day. It's not a bad resume. Next, we have The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, released in 2011 for the Wii gaming console. This game is incredibly important to the Zelda timeline because it takes us all the way back to the very beginning of the legend, explains the origins of the Master Sword, history of Zelda's divine powers, now the eternal conflict between the forces of good and evil first began. In other words, this is where the entire Zelda story actually starts. Long before the events of the game, the world was ruled by a powerful deity known as the goddess Hylia. During this ancient era, the land was suddenly attacked by a terrifying demon king named Demise, who led an army of monsters in an attempt to claim the sacred power known as the Triforce. The war between the goddess and the demon forces nearly destroyed the whole world, and to protect humanity and the Triforce from falling into Demise's hands, Hylia made a desperate decision. She lifted a large piece of land into the sky along with the remaining humans, sending them far above the clouds where the demons could not reach them. This floating land eventually became the peaceful civilization known as Skyloft. Meanwhile, Hylia stayed behind on the surface to fight Demise. After a massive battle, she managed to seal the Demon King away deep within the land, but the seal would not last forever. Knowing that Demise could eventually return, Hylia set a long-term plan in motion. She gave up her divine form and chose to be reborn as a mortal so that one day she could guide the chosen hero who would finally defeat Demise for good. It's been thousands of years since then, and our story begins in a peaceful, floating city called Skyloft, a civilization that lives high above the clouds. These people have lived in the sky for generations. They've got no idea that a vast world even exists beneath them. Here they meet Link once again, a student training at the Knight Academy. Spends his days flying around the sky on his giant bird companion known as a Loftwing, and, of course, getting into occasional trouble with his classmates. He's kind of a scamp in this one. His closest friend is Zelda, who in the story isn't really a princess yet, just a cheerful girl who enjoys her time with her best friend Link whenever she gets the chance. And then there's Groose, a loud and overly confident rival who is absolutely convinced that he's destined to become the hero of time. He's also secretly in love with Zelda and clearly jealous of her close bond with Link. One day, the Academy holds a special ceremony known as the Wing Ceremony, where students race through the sky to prove their flying skills. Link wins the ceremony, is rewarded with a cloth from Zelda, which will allow him to safely descend below the clouds if he ever needs to. And what better time to receive it, because shortly shortly after the ceremony, a mysterious dark tornado suddenly appears in the sky. Zelda is caught in the storm and is violently pulled down through the clouds, disappearing into the unknown world below. Naturally, Link dives after her. Instead of finding Zelda, he encounters something far more mysterious. Inside a sacred statue on Skyloft, Link discovers a strange spirit named Fi, who lives inside a legendary weapon known as the Goddess Sword. Fi explains that Link has been chosen by destiny, and that Zelda's fall was not an accident. According to Fi, if Link wants to find Zelda, he must travel to the mysterious land beneath the clouds. So with the Goddess Sword in hand, and absolutely no idea what's waiting for him down there, Link dives through the clouds and lands in a world the people of Skyloft haven't seen in thousands of years. The surface. And it's not exactly welcoming. The land is filled with monsters, ancient ruins, and strange regions that have clearly been abandoned for ages. Link begins searching for Zelda across 3 major areas of the surface: the forest of Farin Woods, the fiery mountains of Elden Volcano, and the ancient mechanical desert known as Lanayru Desert. But he's not the only one looking for her. Throughout his journey, Link repeatedly runs into a mysterious and extremely dramatic villain named Girahim. This flamboyant demon lord seems very interested in finding Zelda before Link does. Every time they meet, he says something strange that signals he's definitely cooking up something bad. Meanwhile, Link slowly begins to catch up with Zelda at different temples across the surface, only to miss her again and again. Guided by Fi, he travels across the surface, completing sacred tests and visiting ancient temples where he gathers powerful flames blessed by the goddesses. These flames slowly transform the Goddess Sword, making it stronger and preparing it for its true purpose. But while Link is growing stronger, Girahim is getting closer to achieving his goal as well. After chasing Zelda across the surface what feels like forever, Link finally catches up with her at the Temple of Time. She reveals that everything that's been happening was part of a plan set in motion thousands of years ago by the goddess Hylia. You see, Zelda isn't just some random girl from Skyloft, she's actually the mortal reincarnation of Hylia herself. She knew a time like this would come when Demise would return, and wanted to guide the chosen hero who would finish the fight, and that hero is Link. Throughout her journey across the surface, Zelda has been visiting sacred temples to strengthen the seal that keeps Demise imprisoned. But in order to complete the ritual, she must now place herself into a deep sleep inside a magical crystal to continue maintaining that seal. So after finally reuniting with Link, Zelda immediately seals herself away. Yeah, not exactly the reunion that Link was hoping for. Now with Zelda trapped in the crystal and Demise's return getting closer, Link has only one option left. He must grow stronger, complete the remaining trials left behind by the goddess, and transform the Goddess Sword into the legendary blade that can defeat Demise once and for all, the Master Sword. But before he starts his new adventure, an uninvited guest crashes the party, quite literally. Guided by Fi, Link begins completing the sacred trials that were left behind by the goddess. His journey takes him back across the surface to the 3 major regions where he must earn the trust of the ancient guardian dragons who protect these lands. Each dragon grants Link access to a powerful sacred flame, and these flames slowly transform the Goddess Sword. First, it becomes the Goddess Longsword, then the Goddess White Sword, and finally, the legendary blade known as the Master Sword. So, that's how the Master Sword was created for the very first time. But to prove he is truly worthy of wielding it, he must also complete the dangerous spiritual test known as the Silent Realm Trials, where he faces the guardians of the goddess. He earns sacred relics that unlock his full potential as the chosen hero. Meanwhile, back at the sealed grounds, the ancient prison holding Demise begins to weaken. The monstrous creature known as the Imprisoned repeatedly tries to break free from the seal, forcing Link to return several times to stop it. And surprisingly, this is where Groose ends up playing actually a pretty important role. After crash landing on the surface, Groose realizes how serious the situation actually is. Instead of being the jealous rival that we saw earlier, he decides to help defend the seal. In fact, he even builds a giant catapult called the Groosinator, which helps Link launch bombs at the Imprisoned whenever it tries to escape. Yeah, he named it after himself. He earned it. After completing the final trials and fully awakening the Master Sword, Link unlocks the final step in Hylia's ancient plan, but he still needs the Triforce. To do that, Link must prove that he's truly worthy of wielding its power. His journey takes him back to Skyloft, where a hidden structure known as the Sky Keep finally appears. This ancient temple was left behind by the goddess Hylia, and contains the final trials meant to test the chosen hero. Inside the Sky Keep, Link faces a series of complex puzzles and challenges that require everything he has learned throughout his journey. After completing the final trial, Link finally reaches the sacred relic itself, the Triforce. Link makes a wish to completely destroy Demise, hoping to end the threat of the Demon King once and for all. The Triforce responds by sending the massive statue of the goddess crashing down from the sky onto the sealed grounds below, crushing the Imprisoned and seemingly destroying Demise for good. With the Demon King defeated, and the seal no longer needed, Zelda awakens from the crystal and... for a brief moment, it feels like the long struggle is finally over. But unfortunately, somebody else has been waiting for this opportunity, because because while everyone believed the threat was gone, Girahim suddenly appears and kidnaps Zelda, revealing his true plan. He opens the Gate of Time and drags her back into the distant past where Demise still exists before being destroyed, meaning the battle that Link thought he had already won is about to begin again. What a waste of time. Link immediately follows Girahim through the Gate of Time, arriving in the distant past where the final part of this ancient battle unfolds. Here, Girahim finally reveals that he isn't just some random demon working for Demise. He's actually the spirit of Demise's sword, created to serve his master and bring him back to life. Everything he's been doing throughout the game, chasing Zelda, fighting Link, and interfering with the seal, was all part of one plan, to resurrect Demise. Using Zelda's divine soul as part of the ritual, Girahim successfully revives the Demon King in his true form, and after thousands of years of waiting, Demise finally returns. This leads to the final battle of the game, where Link confronts the original Demon King in an intense one-on-one duel. After a brutal fight, Link manages to defeat Demise using the Master Sword, finally ending the ancient war that began thousands of years earlier. But before fading away, Demise leaves a curse that will define the entire Zelda timeline moving forward. He declares that his hatred will never disappear. Instead, it will be reborn again and again throughout history, forever pursuing those who carry the blood of the goddess and the spirit of the hero. In other words, Demise's hatred will continue to reincarnate in new forms, which explains why villains like Ganondorf keep appearing across the timeline, always destined to clash with Link and Zelda. And with Demise finally defeated, peace returns to the world. Zelda awakens, Skyloft begins preparing to settle on the land below, and the long legend of Hyrule is finally ready to begin. With that, the very first chapter of The Legend of Zelda is complete. Next up, we got The Legend of Zelda: Link Between Worlds, released in 2013 for the Nintendo 3DS. This game was a pretty big deal for longtime Zelda fans because it takes place in the same version of Hyrule as A Link to the Past. So when players first jumped in, the nostalgia hit crazy hard. Thanks to good graphics, everything looks even nicer. The story begins with Link working as a blacksmith's apprentice in Hyrule. Life is pretty normal, until a strange sorcerer named Yuga suddenly appears. This guy's a very unusual hobby. He likes to turn people into paintings. Now, this one's new. Yuga starts capturing the descendants of the ancient seven sages, magically trapping them inside artwork. His goal is to use their power to revive a dead villain, and let's just pretend we don't know who that is for once. After witnessing Yuga's magic firsthand, Link sets out to stop him and retrieve the legendary Master Sword, which is pretty much the kingdom's go-to solution whenever things start getting weird. During his journey, Link gains a magical bracelet that allows him to merge into walls, giving him the strange but very useful ability to travel through cracks and along surfaces like a living mural. Eventually, Link discovers that Yuga isn't doing all this alone. Behind everything is Princess Hilda, the ruler of a parallel world known as Lorule, a dark mirror version of Hyrule, but the land has slowly fallen into ruin. The reason for that is actually pretty tragic. Unlike Hyrule, the people of Lorule once destroyed their own Triforce in an attempt to stop endless wars over its power. But without the Triforce to maintain balance, their world became collapsing into chaos. So like any desperate princess trying to save her people, she planned to steal Hyrule's Triforce instead. But like most part-time hired villains, Yuga betrays Hilda and fuses with Ganon, becoming the final villain that Link must defeat. After a massive battle between the worlds, Link defeats Yuga Ganon hybrid thingy and restores peace to Hyrule. Instead of simply walking away, it's way too easy, Zelda and Link make a surprisingly compassionate decision. Using the Triforce, they restore Lorule's Triforce as well, saving the collapsing world and giving its people a second chance. With that, the two kingdoms can finally find peace. The end. Next up, we have The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, released in 2017 for the Nintendo Switch and I guess the Wii U. This game is a massive turning point for the Zelda series. Instead of the usual linear adventure, Nintendo completely gave players a gigantic open world where you could go literally anywhere from the very beginning. But beyond the gameplay changes, the story itself takes place thousands of years after the previous games in the timeline, in a version of Hyrule that's been brought to ruin by evil. Our story begins with Link waking up inside the Shrine of Resurrection after being asleep for 100 years. Got no memory of who he is or what happened in the Kingdom of Hyrule. As Link steps outside, he sees that a once great kingdom is now covered in wild landscapes, abandoned towns, and ancient machines. He finds a strange device known as the Sheikah Slate. The moment he activates it, the device begins reacting to the ancient technology scattered across the land. It leads him to a massive tower on the Great Plateau, and when Link places the slate into its pedestal, towers begin rising across the entire kingdom of Hyrule, reconnecting an ancient network that has been used for 100 years. He's soon guided by a mysterious old man who helps him explore the Great Plateau, teaching him the basic tools he'll need to survive in this new world. After completing a series of trials, the old man finally reveals his true identity. He is King Rome, the last king of Hyrule, now only a wandering spirit waiting for the return of the hero. He explains that 100 years ago, a great disaster struck the kingdom when the evil beast Calamity Ganon returned. The kingdom was destroyed, and Princess Zelda has been holding the monster sealed inside Hyrule Castle ever since. With his final duty fulfilled, the king finally fades away, leaving the fate of Hyrule in Link's hands. So what exactly happened 100 years ago? Well, long before the disaster, the people of Hyrule discovered powerful ancient technology created by a mysterious civilization known as the Sheikah. These included mechanical soldiers, called Guardians, and 4 massive war machines known as the Divine Beasts. According to ancient records, this technology had once been used to defeat Calamity Ganon thousands of years earlier, so when the signs of Ganon's return began appearing again, the kingdom decided to use that same strategy. 4 powerful warriors were chosen as champions, each representing one of Hyrule's major races. Their job was to pilot the Divine Beasts and fight along the hero and the princess. These warriors were Mipha of the Zora, Daruk of the Gorons, Revali of the Rito, and Urbosa of the Gerudo. Alongside them were Princess Zelda, who was trying to awaken her sacred sealing power, and Link, the knight chosen to wield the Master Sword and protect her. In theory, this plan was perfect, but when Calamity Ganon finally appeared, things went horribly wrong. Instead of simply attacking the kingdom, Ganon corrupted the very technology that was meant to defeat him. Pretty smart. The Guardians turned against Hyrule, attacking the cities they were built to protect. The Divine Beasts were taken over, trapping and killing the champions inside their own machines. In a single day, the kingdom of Hyrule collapsed. During the chaos, Link fought desperately to protect Zelda, but was eventually overwhelmed and gravely wounded. With no other option left, Zelda finally awakened her hidden power in that moment of desperation. She managed to save Link's life in order that he be taken to the Shrine of Resurrection, where he would sleep for 100 years while his body healed. Then, completely alone, Zelda traveled to Hyrule Castle and used the last of her strength to seal Calamity Ganon inside of it, holding him back for an entire century while waiting for Link to awaken and finish the fight. And now, after 100 years of waiting, that moment has finally come. With the truth about the past finally revealed, Link now understands his mission. If he wants any chance of defeating Calamity Ganon, he must first free the 4 divine beasts that were corrupted during the fall of Hyrule. So Link sets off across the massive kingdom, traveling to the homes of the 4 races whose champions once piloted these ancient machines. His journey first takes him to the Zora domain, where he meets Prince Sidon, the son of the fallen champion Mipha. Sidon explains that the divine beast Vah-Ruta has been causing massive rainstorms and flooding in the region. With Sidon's help, Link boards the giant elfin-shaped machine and defeats the monster controlling it, freeing the spirit of Mipha, who had been trapped inside ever since the calamity. Next, Link travels to Death Mountain, where the Gorons are dealing with the rampaging divine beast Vah-Rudania. Working alongside the young Goron warrior Yunobo, Link sneaks into the giant lizard-shaped machine and defeats the blight controlling it, releasing the spirit of the mighty champion Daruk. After that, Link heads north to the cold skies of the Rito village, where the divine beast Vah-Medoh has been terrorizing the skies. There, he teams up with the proud Rito warrior Tiba to board the giant bird-shaped machine. Inside, Link defeats another of Ganon's blights and frees the spirit of the sharp-tongued archer Revali. Finally, Link travels deep into the desert to Gerudo Town, where the divine beast Vah-Naboris is rampaging through the sandstorms. With the help of the Gerudo chief Riju, Link infiltrates the thunder-powered camel-shaped machine and defeats the final beast, freeing the spirit of the powerful champion Urbosa. With each divine beast reclaimed, the spirits of the fallen champions pledge their help to Link in the final battle. They regain control of their machines and aim them directly at Hyrule Castle, waiting for the moment when the hero will finally confront Calamity Ganon. But before heading to the castle, there's one more thing left to do: getting the legendary Master Sword. Now technically, in Breath of the Wild, this part's actually optional. Most of this is optional, really. Some players rush directly to the final battle, don't do anything. But from a story perspective, this is the moment when Link truly becomes the hero again. Hidden deep within the mysterious Lost Woods lies a secret place known as Korok Forest, home to the tiny forest spirits called the Koroks. In the center of the forest stands the ancient Great Deku Tree, and resting quietly before him is a sword that fans of the series know very, very well: the Master Sword. When Link tries to pull the blade from its pedestal, the sword tests his strength, and only if during the entire game Link has grown strong enough can he pull the sword out. Now with the Master Sword back in his hands, the hero of Hyrule is finally ready to face the enemy that destroyed the kingdom a century ago.
I think this final battle calls for a slightly different voice. The once great castle now sits at the center of a swirling storm of dark energy, completely consumed by the malice of Calamity Ganon. Guardians roam the surrounding fields, corrupted machines patrol the ruins, and the castle itself has become the heart of Ganon's power. As he approaches the castle, the 4 divine beasts finally activate. From across the kingdom, the ancient machines fire massive blasts directly at the castle, weakening Calamity Ganon before the battle even begins. It's the champion's final contribution to the fight, the same fight they were unable to finish a century ago. Inside the castle, Link finally confronts the monstrous form of Calamity Ganon, a chaotic fusion of ancient technology and pure hatred that has been building power for 100 years. After an intense battle, Link manages to defeat this form of the monster, but Ganon isn't finished yet. The malice erupts from the castle and takes on a final gigantic form known as Dark Beast Ganon, towering over the ruins of Hyrule Field like a living nightmare. At that moment, Princess Zelda finally appears after holding the seal on Ganon for an entire century. story. She gives Link the Bow of Light, the sacred weapon capable of destroying the beast once and for all. Riding across the battlefield on horseback, Link fires arrows of light into the glowing weak points across the giant creature. With one final shot directly into Ganon's core, the calamity is finally destroyed. For the first time in 100 years, the dark clouds surrounding Hyrule disappear. The spirits of the champions are finally able to rest, and Princess Zelda is finally free from the burden she carried alone for an entire century. And with Calamity Ganon gone, the long road of rebuilding the kingdom of Hyrule can finally begin. Okay, now for the last game in the series, we have The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, released in 2023 for the Nintendo Switch. This game is the direct sequel to Breath of the Wild. In the post-credits scene of the previous game, we see Link and Zelda traveling together across Hyrule, investigating reports of strange activity beneath Hyrule Castle. A mysterious substance known as gloom starts appearing under the kingdom, and Zelda suspects it may be connected to the ancient calamity that they just defeated. And as it turns out, she's absolutely right. Deep within the caverns, they discover ancient murals depicting a long-forgotten war between Hyrule's earliest rulers and a powerful demon king. At the center of these ruins lies a mummified corpse sealed beneath the castle. Unfortunately, their investigation wakes it up. The corpse suddenly reanimates, revealing itself to be Ganondorf, but this one's like the OG, first edition, the original demon king from ancient times. As he awakens, dark energy erupts through the caverns. The Master Sword is shattered, Link's arm is severely corrupted by gloom, and the castle itself is violently lifted into the sky. In the chaos, Zelda falls down into the darkness below. Link, without a second thought, jumps right after her, but misses, and the pair is separated yet again. When Zelda wakes up, she finds herself thousands of years into the past, to the ancient era when the kingdom of Hyrule was first founded. There, she meets King Rauru and Queen Sonia, the original rulers of Hyrule and members of the mysterious Zonai civilization. Through them, Zelda learns the true history of the Demon King and the ancient war that once threatened the entire kingdom. As Zelda spends time in this ancient era, she begins learning more about the Zonai, a powerful and highly advanced civilization that once descended from the heavens. King Rauru, one of the last remaining Zonai, had married Queen Sonia, a Hylian priestess with a rare ability to control time. Together, they became the very first rulers of the kingdom of Hyrule. But peace during this era didn't last long. During Zelda's time in the past, a powerful Gerudo warlord named Ganondorf began rising to power. Unlike the Ganons seen in previous games, this version of Ganondorf is still human, cunning, patient, and plotting to overthrow the kingdom. Eventually, Ganondorf betrays the royal family and steals a powerful artifact known as a secret stone, which amplifies its user's abilities. Using this power, he transforms himself into the Demon King, unleashing an army of monsters across the land. He kills Queen Sonia, and this sparks a massive war between the Demon King and the forces of Hyrule. To fight him, King Rauru gathers powerful warriors from across the land, forming the first generation of sages. Together, they battle Ganondorf's armies in an attempt to stop him before his power grows any stronger. But even with their combined strength, Ganondorf proves nearly impossible to defeat. Realizing the Demon King cannot be destroyed, Rauru makes a final desperate decision. Using his own power, he sacrifices himself to seal Ganondorf deep beneath the earth, trapping him far below the future site of Hyrule Castle. The seal works, but barely, and Zelda quickly realizes that the Ganondorf sealed beneath the earth thousands of years ago is in fact the same one who just awakened before she fell into the past. So Link must be pretty cooked up in there. On the other side, when Link awakens again, he finds himself on a floating island high above the clouds, known as the Great Sky Island. His injured arm has been replaced by a magical arm belonging to an ancient figure named Rauru. Yes, Rauru's dead. And yes, he's talking to Link from the distant past. And yes, Link has no idea who Rauru is. Rauru speaks to him through the hand and tells him he was the first king of Hyrule, one of the mysterious Zonai, an ancient race whose technology and architecture now appear across the floating sky islands. With Rauru's arm, Link gains new abilities that completely change how he interacts with the world, including the power to fuse objects together, rewind time on objects, and build complex machines. But before Link can return to Hyrule, he must prove himself worthy. Across the Great Sky Island, he enters several ancient shrines left behind by the Zonai. Each shrine tests his ability to use these new powers, slowly preparing him for the challenges waiting below. Along the way, Link also discovers that the Master Sword has been completely shattered by Ganondorf's attack, leaving him without the legendary weapon that once helped defeat Calamity Ganon. After completing the trials of the island, Link finally reaches the Temple of Time, where Rauru grants him the final power needed to return to the surface. Link then leaps from the sky and dives through the clouds, landing back in the kingdom of Hyrule. But the world he returns to is no longer the same. The moment Ganondorf awakened beneath Hyrule Castle triggered a massive disaster, now known as the Upheaval. Huge chunks of land have risen into the sky, ancient ruins have appeared across the kingdom, and a dangerous substance called gloom has begun spreading from deep underground. Worst of all, Princess Zelda is nowhere to be found. After returning to the surface, Link makes his way to Lookout Landing, a temporary research base built near the ruins of Hyrule Castle. Here, he reunites with Purah and the remaining members of the Sheikah research team, who are trying to understand the chaos caused by the Upheaval. During their investigation, strange reports begin coming in from the kingdom. Several regions of Hyrule are experiencing massive disasters, and in each place, people claim to have briefly seen Princess Zelda shortly before the events began. Naturally, this makes the situation even more confusing. Pora asks Link to travel across the kingdom and investigate these disturbances, hoping they might reveal what happened to Zelda. Link first travels to the Rito village, where an enormous blizzard has completely shut down the skies above the region. Working alongside the young Rito warrior Tulin, Link ascends high into the Sky Islands above the village and discover an ancient temple hidden within the storm. There, he defeats a powerful monster created by Ganondorf and awakens Tulin as the Sage of the Wind. Next, Link journeys to Goron City, where the Gorons have become strangely addicted to glowing rocks known as marbled rock roast. These rocks are secretly being produced by monsters inside Death Mountain. They've been manipulating the Gorons' behavior. With the help of Yunobo, Link infiltrates the fire temple deep inside the volcano and defeats the creature responsible, awakening Yunobo as the Sage of Fire. In Zora's domain, a mysterious sludge has begun falling from the sky, poisoning the kingdom's water supply. Together with Prince Sidon, Link tracks the corruption to an ancient temple hidden within the clouds. After defeating another of Ganondorf's monsters, Sidon awakens as the Sage of Water. Finally, Link travels to the Gerudo Desert, where massive lightning storms have plunged the region into darkness and allowed monsters to attack the desert city. Fighting alongside Chief Riju, Link explores the ancient lightning temple buried beneath the sands and defeats the final creature responsible for the disaster. Riju then awakens as the Sage of Lightning. With each temple cleared, the descendants of the ancient sages inherit the powers of their ancestors. One by one, they pledge their support to Link in the coming battle against the Demon King. For the first time since the ancient war thousands of years ago, the sages of Hyrule have returned. While traveling across Hyrule, Link begins discovering enormous glowing markings carved into the landscape known as geoglyphs. At the center of each one lies a mysterious memory called a dragon's tear. When Link touches them, he witnesses visions left behind by Princess Zelda during her time in the distant past. Through these memories, Link slowly learns what happened to Zelda after she was sent thousands of years back in time. She sees Zelda spend her time in the past helping King Rauru and the ancient sages prepare for the war against Ganondorf. But after witnessing the rise of the Demon King, she realizes that even if Ganondorf is sealed away, he's going to eventually return in the future. And when that happens, the world will need the Master Sword to defeat him. But the sword that Link carried into the past was shattered during Ganondorf's awakening, so Zelda makes an unimaginable decision. Using the power of a secret stone, she performs an ancient forbidden ritual known as Draconification, transforming herself into an immortal dragon so that she can carry the Master Sword through time while it slowly restores its power. In doing so, Zelda becomes the Light Dragon. That is why the dragon's tear shows her memories of the distant past. Now, she's destined to fly across the skies of Hyrule for thousands of years, protecting the blade until the moment Link can finally return to claim it. Armed with this knowledge, Link realizes that the only way to restore the legendary blade is to retrieve it from the Light Dragon itself. After tracking the dragon across the skies of Hyrule, Link finally reaches it high above the clouds. Embedded in the dragon's forehead is the fully restored Master Sword, which has spent thousands of years healing while Zelda carried it through time. Link pulls the sword free, reclaiming the legendary weapon once again. With the Master Sword restored and the sages now standing behind him, Link finally has everything he needs to confront the Demon King. With the Master Sword restored and the sages of Hyrule now fighting beside him, Link prepares for the final confrontation. The source of the darkness lies deep below the kingdom, in the vast underground world known as the Depths. This massive subterranean realm stretches beneath all of Hyrule, completely covered in gloom and filled with monsters created by the Demon King. At the very bottom of this underground world lies the place where Ganondorf has been gathering his strength ever since he broke free from Rauru's ancient seal. As Link descends deeper and deeper beneath the castle, the environment becomes darker, more corrupted, almost as if the world itself is rotting away under Ganondorf's influence. Eventually, Link reaches the Demon King himself. Ganondorf now stands fully restored, no longer the withered corpse seen at the beginning of the game, but the powerful warlord he once was in the past. After thousands of years of waiting, the Demon King is finally ready to reclaim the world. What follows is one of the most intense battles in the series. Link fights Ganondorf in a brutal duel where the Demon King uses dark magic, powerful weapons, and even the ability to permanently destroy Link's hearts with Gloom Attack. Despite the overwhelming power of the Demon King, Link eventually manages to defeat him, but Ganondorf refuses to accept defeat. In a final act of desperation, he performs the same forbidden ritual Zelda used earlier, Draconification. Ganondorf transforms into a massive creature known as the Demon Dragon, a gigantic beast fueled by pure darkness that rises into the sky above Hyrule. The battle is no longer confined to the depths of the earth. It moves to the sky. As the Demon Dragon flies across the clouds, another dragon appears to stop him. The Light Dragon, Zelda, who sacrificed her humanity thousands of years ago, arrives to help Link finish the fight. Link leaps onto the Light Dragon's back, and together they chase the Demon Dragon across the skies of Hyrule. Riding the Light Dragon through the clouds, Link attacks the weak points across Ganondorf's enormous body using the Master Sword, slowly destroying the darkness that powers him. With one final strike to the Demon Dragon's core, the Demon King is finally destroyed. After thousands of years of war, Ganondorf is defeated for good. But the story isn't over yet. With Ganondorf gone, the power of the sages and the spirits of Rauru and Sonia finally help restore Zelda to her original form, reversing the Draconification that kept her flying through the skies for a millennia. For the first time since the beginning of the game, for the first time in 1,000 years, Link and Zelda are reunited. Together with their friends and the sages of the new generation, they look out over a kingdom that has survived yet another cycle of destruction. But this time, the future looks different. For the first time in Hyrule's long history, the Demon King has finally been defeated at the very root of his power, and the kingdom of Hyrule can finally have some peace. So yeah, that's The Legend of Zelda. If you want to dive into another legendary game story with me, click the video on screen. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. See ya.